Chapter 298. Is it war or peace? Su Qin was non-committal. As soon as he noticed that the Green Mang Magus Lord was hiding in the palace, Su Qin had already guessed the other party's intentions. That's right. The Green Mang Magus Lord said solemnly, the land of the great battle is the core of the recovery of the tide of vitality. It is of great importance. It is absolutely impossible for us to sit back and watch you occupy the land of the great battle. The Green Mang Magus Lord paused for a moment before continuing. Now that the first critical point of the tide of vitality has arrived, and the great world is about to begin. If you are willing to hand over 80% of the area you currently occupy, we will not make things difficult for you. The Green Mang Magus Lord said seriously. In fact, leaving 20% of the area to Su Qin was already a great sacrifice for the great sections. It should be known that the great sects were not monolithic, and they also needed to divide up the land of the great battle. Su Qin occupied 20% of the area, which was absolutely comparable to the area of the great battle that the great sects like witchcraft, which had a history of tens of thousands of years. Is that so? I have killed so many people from your great sects, and you don't care anymore? Su Qin's expression did not change, and he asked casually. Wanjian School was not mentioned. After all, it had been completely destroyed. Even if there were still disciples of Wanjian School overseas, they would not be able to do anything. Even if Su Qin did not take action, there would be others who would take action to take them down and interrogate them about the inheritance of Wanjian School. When the Wanjian School was still there, it was famous overseas. Naturally, there were not many martial artists who dared to take action against the disciples of the Wanjian School. But now that the Wanjian School had been destroyed, the disciples of the Wanjian School who were stranded outside were no different from moving treasure troves for those overseas mythical cultivators. But in addition to the Wanjian School, Su Qin had also killed Ancestor Lei Xing, Ancestor Yuan, and other peak mythical cultivators at the primordial spirit level. Not only Raytheon, but the Xianxia still existed. They knew that their ancestor had died at the hands of Su Qin. Would they let it go? As long as you're willing to give up 80% of your territory, I'll help you persuade Raytheon and the other major sections. The Green Glow Magus Master seemed to have thought of this problem and said without hesitation. In the eyes of Raytheon and Xianxia, the fall of a peak mythical being at the level of primordial spirit could be said to be a great loss to the world, but at worst, they could just give them more areas when dividing up the land of the great battle. If he could avoid fighting with an expert like Su Qin, it would definitely be a gain for Green Mang Shaman Lord. Even if Green Mang Shaman Lord believed that his strength was not weaker than Su Qin, but after all, there was not much Shoyuan left. Compared with Su Qin, who was full of vitality and could attack without restraint, he was inferior. Even if Green Mang Shaman Lord had several other friends of the same level behind him and had the advantage of numbers, he would still lose 800 of his own to kill 1,000 enemies. If he could avoid fighting, he would try his best not to. What if I refuse? Su Qin's tone was calm, like an ancient well without ripples. Refuse? Green Mang Shaman Lord frowned. He did expect that Su Qin would refuse, and this was the scene he did not want to see the most. If you refuse, then we can only fight. Although my friends and I are in our later years and our vitality is not as strong as yours, if we join forces, unless you have already stepped into the realm of Earth Immortal, you should not be able to defeat us. When Green Mang Shaman Lord said this, a trace of pride appeared on his face. As a peak myth who had once tried to reach the realm of Earth Immortal, his primordial spirit had even integrated into the vital Qi Si, and he had glimpsed some of the techniques of the Earth Immortal realm. Strictly speaking, Green Mang Shaman Lord was no longer in the myth realm. Instead, he was between the Earth Immortal realm and the myth realm, also known as the half-step Earth Immortal. If it were not for the fact that Green Mang Shaman Lord's vitality was declining, even if he sealed it with a secret technique, he would not be so afraid of Su Qin. Earth Immortal? Are you so sure that I'm not an Earth Immortal? Su Qin slowly turned around, looked at Green Mang Shaman Lord, and said lightly, "Are you referring to the source of fire element?" Green Mang Shaman Lord kept shaking his head and said, "Before I came, I already felt that the source of fire element was almost sucked dry. I think it must be your doing? However, although the source of fire element can help a peak myth break through the shackles and step into the realm of Earth Immortal, it is only useful for the primordial spirit to integrate into the vital chi si in the depths of the void. As for the next step, drawing on the power of the vital chi si to transform the body, even if everything goes smoothly, it will still take 10 years. You only took a year to walk out of the source of fire element. I think you must have tried to break through, but failed in the end? Green Mang Shaman Lord's eyes flickered, and he said word by word, once you fail to break through to the realm of Earth Immortal, you will inevitably suffer a backlash from the vital chi si. Your vital chi will be greatly damaged, and your vitality and primordial spirit will begin to collapse. In the worst case, your body and spirit will be destroyed on the spot. Even if you have the help of the source of fire element and blocked most of the backlash, you must be injured at this moment. Green Mang Shaman Lord paused slightly, and his eyes were fixed on Su Qin. This was also the reason why he rushed to the palace alone. First, he was confident in his own strength. Although he might not be able to defeat Su Qin, at the very least, he would have no problem retreating unscathed. Second, Green Mang Shaman Lord inferred from the source of fire element that Su Qin was injured and could not attack with all his strength. Under such circumstances, even if he and Su Qin fell through, he could bear the consequences. Ha! Su Qin chuckled. From a certain point of view, Green Mang Shaman Lord was right. Su Qin was indeed not an Earth Immortal. He did not have a domain or a Dharma body. However, Su Qin had condensed the Golden Crow Divine Body. With the Golden Crow Divine Body, even if an Earth Immortal was face to face, he would not be afraid at all. All right. You can leave. Su Qin could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Green Mang Shaman Lord. If it were not for the fact that Green Mang Shaman Lord did not hurt anyone after sneaking into the palace and had never thought of threatening the lives of the people in the palace, how could he still talk to Su Qin so calmly at this moment? Naturally, Green Mang Shaman Lord did not know that his unintentional actions had saved his life. In fact, the reason why Green Mang Shaman Lord did not threaten Su Qin with the lives of the people in the palace was that in Green Mang Shaman Lord's opinion, for experts like them, they had long achieved the great indifference. Is fellow Daoist refusing? Green Mang Shaman Lord sighed softly. The scene that he did not want to see the most had come. Even if he speculated that Su Qin was injured, it was only a speculation and not 100% certainty. He had just said this with the intention of sounding out, but Su Qin did not reveal the slightest bit, so he could not judge. Besides, even if Su Qin really failed to break through, with the protection of the source of fire element, he would only suffer less than 10% of the backlash. If he was desperate, he could still burst out with power close to that of an Earth Immortal. In that case, I hope fellow Daoist won't regret it in the future. Green Mang Shaman Lord said solemnly. It was related to the ownership of the land of the Great Battle. Not only him, but the other great sects also had no way out. This was a great opportunity, involving the opportunity of an Earth Immortal or even a higher realm. It was the greatest treasure in the world. Not to mention that Su Qin was not an Earth Immortal. Even if Su Qin had really stepped into the Earth Immortal realm, the great sects would still bite the bullet and take a gamble. They would not just watch the opportunity slip away and the treasure go away. What? Are you threatening me? Su Qin narrowed his eyes slightly, and a trace of inexplicable aura began to leak out. I wouldn't dare. Green Mang Shaman Lord immediately denied. My fellow Taoist, you are very powerful. How would I dare to threaten you? It's just a pity. After all, if you agree to our proposal, there may be no need to fight and kill. Since my fellow Taoist doesn't agree, I'll take my leave first. Thank you for your hospitality. As Green Mang Shaman Lord spoke, his figure quickly merged into the darkness and then completely disappeared. In Su Qin's perception, Green Mang Shaman Lord leaped out of Chang and city at a terrifying speed. Interesting escape technique? Similar to the Thousand Buddha Hall's Divine Feet escape technique? Su Qin carefully felt it and thought silently in his heart. The Thousand Buddha Hall's Divine Feet escape technique was a Buddhist escape technique created by a powerful Buddhist in the previous era of vitality recovery. Although it was still far inferior to the divine feet escape technique, it was still far better than the ordinary escape technique. However, the method Green Mang Shaman Lord used to leave just now was similar to the divine feet escape technique. However, this is the first time I've seen someone from the gate of witchcraft. Su Qin's expression was thoughtful. He is somewhat similar to the moon god I saw in the moon-worshipping cult in Nanzhao. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated. Decades ago, the saintess of the moon-worshipping cult sneaked into Chang and city to control the family Su and then the empire of Tang. After Su Qin learned about it, he killed the saintess of the moon-worshipping cult. Not long after, he went to Nanzhao alone and destroyed the moon-worshipping cult with one palm. Then Su Qin discovered that the moon god worshipped by the moon-worshipping cult was actually a strand of divine thought of a legendary martial artist. Could the moon god be from witchcraft? Su Qin's expression was normal as he stopped thinking about it. Whether the moon god worshipped by the moon-worshipping cult was really related to witchcraft or not, Su Qin no longer cared about it. Even if the moon god was really a disciple of witchcraft, so what? Would witchcraft dare to seek revenge on Su Qin for a mere myth realm disciple? After Green Mang Shaman Lord left completely, the old man Fei Yu finally mustered up the courage to say, "Sir, Green Mang Shaman Lord is one of the strongest forces of witchcraft. Are you going to let him go just like that?" The old man Fei Yu looked at Su Qin carefully. Although Su Qin and Green Mang Shaman Lord didn't talk much, it was obvious that they didn't reach an agreement. Instead of dealing with Green Mang Shaman Lord in the future, it was better to keep him in Chang and city forever. "It's fine." Su Qin shook his head slightly and didn't care. If Su Qin's picture of the Great Sun had not been completed and he still hadn't formed the Golden Crow body, he would have kept Green Mang Shaman Lord in order to reduce the pressure in the future. But now, Su Qin was invincible. Even if an Earth Immortal came, he would have to fight to know the winner. Why would he care about Green Mang Shaman Lord? Besides, if Green Mang Shaman Lord died in Chang and City, it would definitely make the rest of the half-step Earth Immortals suspicious. They might not even dare to come to Chang and City again. This was the difference in strength and confidence. The way they chose to do things was also different. Seeing this, Fei Yu didn't dare to say anything. He stood beside Su Qin respectfully and watched the lights of Chang and City together. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this period, Su Qin was basically experiencing the skyrocketing power in his body. Although the Golden Crow body was powerful, Su Qin needed time to completely adapt to this power. After all, Su Qin was not a real three-legged golden crow, nor was he a powerful divine beast. In addition to adapting to his power, Su Qin was also thinking about his next step. Now, Su Qin had two choices. Completely abandon the identity of a martial artist and focus on the path of a divine beast. The picture of the 12 divine beasts symbolized the 12 most powerful divine beasts in the world. Now, just the first picture of the Great Sun had brought Su Qin so much improvement. If he continued to cultivate, he would definitely have great potential. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed Earth Immortals. Compared to the path of a martial artist, the path of a divine beast was obviously much easier, and the improvement it brought was far more than the former. For example, if a martial artist wanted to enter the Earth Immortal realm, he would definitely have to go through a lot of difficulties. But for a divine beast, a newborn three-legged golden crow had the strength to defeat most Earth Immortals. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. Almost all the martial artists in the world couldn't reach the starting point of a divine beast's baby in their lifetime. The path of a divine beast is certainly much easier, but the upper limit is fixed. But the path of a martial artist has unlimited potential, and there is the possibility of becoming an immortal ancestor in the future. Su Qin thought for a long time, and his heart suddenly became firm. If divine beasts were really invincible, then how was the picture of the 12 divine beasts created? The picture of the 12 divine beasts could allow people to easily transform into the 12 most powerful divine beasts. They must have a deep understanding of these 12 most powerful divine beasts. The existence who created this divine art might have reared a group of divine beasts for research and finally created the picture of the 12 divine beasts. Just from the picture of the 12 divine beasts, it showed that divine beasts were not really invincible. Perhaps in the early stage, divine beasts had unimaginable convenience. They were the starting point of most humans at birth. But the higher the level, the smaller the gap was. Of course, this was also because Su Qin had the system and his potential was much higher than other martial artists. Otherwise, no matter how confident Su Qin was, he wouldn't dare to say that he would surpass an adult divine beast in the future. The picture of the 12 divine beasts is just a means. I still need to be a human martial artist as the foundation. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated and he began to seriously consider. Since I want to walk the path of a martial artist, what I need to do now is to break through the shackles and enter the Earth Immortal realm. Su Qin thought quickly. For other martial artists, the Earth Immortal realm was like a legend. Even in the eyes of Magus Master Qing Mang, the Earth Immortal realm was an unattainable realm. Once, they were infinitely close to the Earth Immortal realm, but in the end, they failed and fell. But Su Qin felt that the Earth Immortal realm was not difficult. Now that his realm was complete, and with the support of the Golden Crow Divine Body, his body was like a small sea of fire element vitality. It was easy for him to draw the sea of vitality in the depths of the void. Su Qin was now thinking about how deep he could reach if his primordial spirit merged with the sea of vitality. P.S. I'm ashamed. I will definitely release more chapters tomorrow. Release more chapters. Release more chapters. I will write from morning to night. Chapter 299. When an ordinary peak mythical creature became an Earth Immortal, it was already a blessing for their primordial spirit to be able to integrate into the primordial spirit sea. How would they dare to have other requests? However, Su Qin was thinking about how to integrate into the primordial spirit sea. The primordial spirit sea existed in the depths of the void. Like the war god temple, it did not exist in the world. It was difficult for ordinary living beings to come into contact with it in their entire lives. Only when a peak mythical creature broke through the shackles, perfected their essence, energy, and primordial spirit would they have a chance to break through the layers of the void and feel the vast and endless primordial spirit sea. Although the primordial spirit sea was not an ocean, it was similar to an ocean. It was an ocean formed by the endless primordial spirit between heaven and earth. When an ordinary peak mythical creature broke through, their primordial spirit would only touch the surface of the primordial spirit sea. Although the primordial spirit sea contained boundless primordial spirit sea, compared to the depths, it was much weaker. Of course, for ordinary peak mythical creatures, they did not care about this because just integrating into the primordial spirit sea on the surface had already exhausted all their strength. However, Su Qin was different. With the support of the Golden Crow Divine Body, even if he did not integrate into the primordial spirit sea, Su Qin could still have the combat strength of an Earth Immortal. If he was just like other peak mythical creatures who only had a shallow taste, then why did Su Qin want to become an Earth Immortal? The primordial spirit of heaven and earth is like an ocean. The deeper you go, the greater the pressure you will bear. It will be more dangerous to integrate into it. If you are not careful, you will be crushed into powder by the entire primordial spirit sea. Su Qin's expression turned solemn. This was also the reason why he did not immediately try to break through after condensing the Golden Crow Divine Body. Su Qin's body was unbelievably powerful, even incomparable to the Dharma body of an ordinary Earth Immortal, but his primordial spirit had not undergone a qualitative transformation. Besides, even if Su Qin's primordial spirit had transformed, unless he could destroy the world with a thought, he would still be weak in front of the primordial spirit sea that symbolized the primordial spirit of the world. The primordial spirit sea is recovering, and the primordial spirit sea in the depths of the void has also begun to rise. At this time, if my primordial spirit fuses into it and encounters some rising waves, I'm afraid that it will be smashed into pieces, Su Qin thought. The recovery of the primordial energy tide had caused the primordial energy sea to become active. When a peak mythical broke through, It was easier to sense the fluctuations of the primordial energy sea and fuse with it. However, there were pros and cons. Where there were benefits, there were also risks. Once I maintain the golden crow divine body, I can easily control the fire elemental power of heaven and earth, and I'm extremely sensitive to the primordial chi ocean in the depths of the void. Su Qin looked slightly emotional. In this case, if it weren't for the sake of being foolproof, Su Qin would have entered the earth immortal realm with just a thought. The reason why the origin of the 5 elements could help a pinnacle myth break through was that it possessed a huge amount of 5 elements power. It could faintly sense the vital chi ocean in the depths of the void. This way, for a pinnacle myth, it was equivalent to having a direction. There was no risk of getting lost in the depths of the void. But now, Su Qin's body had replaced the effect of the 5 elemental sources. Not only that, compared to the other 5 elemental sources, the Yuan Qi ocean that the Golden Crow divine body could sense was more detailed and more accurate. No matter how precious the origin of the 5 elements was, how could it compare to the body of the legendary divine beast? Even if Su Qin's body was still that of the human race, in some aspects, it was already the favorite of the fire elemental power. Just as Su Qin was thinking about how to enter the earth god realm without any risk. Outside the empire of Tang. In a valley with a medicinal fragrance. The Green Glow Magus Master appeared here silently. Green Glow, how was your trip? Did the myth of the Empire of Tang accept our proposal? Not long after the Green Glow Witch Master appeared, an old voice was heard. An old man in a white robe slowly walked to the Green Glow Witch Master and asked. Not only the old man in the white robe, but several other figures also appeared and stared at the Green Glow Witch Master. It seems that you've recovered well, Medicine Master? The Green Glow Witch Master glanced at the old man in the white robe and smiled. He then shook his head and said, the myth of the Empire of Tang didn't accept our proposal. Since he didn't accept it, then die. If we join forces, we can even face an earth god. Why would we be afraid of a mere peak myth? Before the Medicine Master in the white robe spoke, a cold voice suddenly came from a figure next to him, as if announcing Su Qin's fate. That's right. We've already given that Taoist friend of the Empire of Tang a chance. The old man in the white robe nodded slightly, and a look of pity appeared on his face. Unfortunately, that Taoist friend's appetite is too big. He wants to swallow the land of the great battle alone. When the other figures heard this, a look of agreement appeared on their faces. Su Qin's strength was indeed very strong. To be able to completely kill Ancestor Thunder Xing and the other 2 peak myths in the primordial spirit realm, he was probably already half a step into the earth god realm like them. However, no matter how strong he was, could he be stronger than the great sects that had been passed down for thousands of years? If it was any other treasure or opportunity, the great sects might have given it up. However, the land of the great battle was different. When should we go to the Empire of Tang? At this moment, another voice sounded. 7 days later. The Green Mang Shaman Lord pondered for a moment and said, I still need a few days to adjust myself. Although the Green Mang Shaman Lord's strength had almost recovered after a year of cultivation, he still needed some time to adapt to the changes in the outside world after sleeping for more than 2,000 years. All right. Then let's set it for 7 days later. Let that legend of the Empire of Tang live for another 7 days. At the beginning, the cold voice sounded again. As soon as this was said, no one, including the Green Mang Shaman Lord, refuted it. It was as if in their hearts, once they joined forces to go to Chang'an City, it would be the time of Su Qin's death. In fact, it was exactly so. With more than 5 half-step earth gods joining forces, coupled with the treasures of their respective sects, who could defeat them other than a true earth god? No matter how vigorous Su Qin's chi and blood were, he had not truly stepped into the earth god realm. Under such suppression, how could he survive? The Empire of Tang. Chang'an City. Su Qin naturally did not know that in the eyes of those half-step earth gods of the major sects, he was already a dead man. Even if Su Qin knew about it, he would still smile faintly. The reason why he did not show his strength in front of the Green Mang Shaman Lord was that the Green Mang Shaman Lord did not make a move in the palace. More importantly, Su Qin wanted to wipe out all the major sects in one fell swoop. If Su Qin directly made the Green Mang Shaman Lord stay, the remaining half-step Earth gods would not dare to continue fighting. At that time, if they were to hide in the dark and secretly attack the Empire of Tang, Su Qin would have to spend time hunting them down. Wouldn't that be troublesome? On this day, Su Qin was strolling around the palace with Su Yueyun and the Emperor of Tang. Ever since he formed the Golden Crow divine body, Su Qin finally had the confidence to face many major sections. In addition, he was thinking about how to step into the Earth God realm without any mishaps. Therefore, he temporarily suspended his cultivation and spent his time with his family. Third brother, those overseas martial artists said that you destroyed Wanjian school. Is that true? Empress Su Yueyun could not help but ask. Now that the recovery of the vitality tide had intensified, more and more overseas legendary martial artists had entered the Empire of Tang. There were even some legendary martial artists from small overseas sects who sought refuge with the Empire of Tang. In the overseas martial arts world, the major sects looked down on all living beings. However, other than the major sects, there were still some small sections. These small sects were far inferior to the major sections. Therefore, they sought refuge with the Empire of Tang. The Empire of Tang naturally agreed. With Su Qin's deterrence, these small sects did not dare to play any tricks at all. Su Yueyun learned about Su Qin's magnificent feat overseas through these martial artists who took the initiative to seek refuge with the Empire of Tang. As soon as Su Yueyun's voice fell, the Emperor of Tang immediately pricked up his ears. Obviously, he was very curious about this matter. With constant contact with the overseas martial artists, the Emperor of Tang became more and more aware of the importance of the major sects overseas. Even the weakest major sect had been passed down for thousands of years. It was comparable to several the Empire of Tang. If there was no Su Qin, any disciple from the major sects would be enough to sweep the Empire of Tang and trample the Emperor of Tang under his feet. It should be true. Su Qin smiled and said casually. After receiving Su Qin's affirmation, the Emperor of Tang and Su Yueyun looked at each other. Their faces were still full of shock. Even if they had already confirmed this matter in advance, they still found it hard to control themselves when they heard Su Qin admit it. That was a major sect that had been passed down for thousands of years. It had countless resources and experts. How could it be destroyed just like that? Third brother, have you become an immortal? Su Yueyun calmed down and asked tentatively. I'm not an immortal. That's something that only exists in myths and legends. I'm just a martial artist. Su Qin shook his head. According to Su Qin's understanding of the martial arts cultivation system, even an earth immortal was not a real immortal. Not to mention that Su Qin was not even an earth immortal now. With the Golden Crow divine body, Su Qin was comparable to an earth immortal, but he was not an earth immortal. When Su Yueyun and the Emperor of Tang heard this, they both nodded. Just as Su Yueyun was about to continue speaking, Su Qin suddenly raised his head and looked around with a smile on his face. They're finally here, Su Qin said in a low voice. They're all here? Third brother, who are you talking about? The Emperor of Tang did not react. Apart from them, there were only some patrolling imperial guards nearby. Who else could there be? Just as the Emperor of Tang and Su Yueyun were confused, an indifferent voice suddenly came from the void. Haha, I've heard from Qin Mang that you have sharp senses. Now it seems that you are indeed extraordinary. Then, under the shocked gazes of the Emperor of Tang and Su Yueyun, one figure after another walked out from the depths of the void. In the end, 7 figures stood in the sky above the palace and looked down like gods overlooking ants. The moment these 7 figures appeared, their aura soared. They seemed to have broken through the barrier and came into contact with the vast and endless sea of vitality. Yijing. Chapter 300. In the sky above the Emperor of Tang Palace. The 7 figures were like gods and demons, standing high in the void. Their terrifying aura filled the air and shrouded everyone's heart like a natural disaster. Greetings, Taoist friend. Among the 7 figures, the Magus Master of Qing Mang smiled and bowed slightly to Su Qin. As for the other 6 figures, they were either sneering, indifferent, or calm. They sized up Su Qin in different ways. Is this the last trump card of the upper sects? Su Qin shook his head slightly. The Magus Master of Qing Mang was not the strongest among the 7 figures. The aura of the other 6 figures was extremely deep and was not much weaker than that of the Magus Master of Qing Mang. They were all peerless experts who were half a step away from Earth Immortals. Taoist friend, you seem to have something to rely on? The Magus Master of Qing Mang chuckled. The moment Su Qin rejected his proposal, the Magus Master of Qing Mang knew that Su Qin must have some trump card. However, in the Magus Master of Qing Mang's mind, no matter what trump cards Su Qin had, there was no way he could survive under the joint forces of the upper sects. Su Qin had a trump card, but did the upper sects not have one? Compared to Su Qin's hundreds of years of accumulation, the upper sects had thousands of years of inheritance. How could Su Qin compare? This is not the place to fight. Su Qin glanced at the Emperor of Tang and the others who looked solemn. He took a step forward and disappeared. However, in the perception of the Magus Master of Qing Mang and the others, Su Qin had already appeared thousands of meters above the sky. That's right. The Magus Master of Qing Mang also glanced at the Emperor of Tang Palace and nodded slightly. If they fought here, the aftermath of the battle would definitely turn the entire Chang'an city into ruins. Once Chang'an city was destroyed, the Empire of Tang would be in chaos. It would not be good for the upper sects to take over the land of the battle. The other 6 figures did not have any objections. For them, the Empire of Tang was already in their bag, so they were naturally happy to do so. After the 7 figures disappeared, the Emperor of Tang and Su Yueyun were slightly relieved. Just now, when the 7 figures stood in the void, it was as if they had really become the embodiment of the vast world. Even if they stood still, they still exerted great pressure on the Emperor of Tang and Su Yueyun. This kind of pressure was not the pressure of aura, but a pressure that came from the essence of life. It was as if the 7 figures had completely surpassed ordinary humans in terms of life level. That was indeed the case. Half-step land immortals might not be able to command heaven and earth like real land immortals, but they could still see some of the true meaning. In fact, how could a pinnacle myth compare to them? Third brother, you must not lose. The Emperor of Tang clenched his fists and murmured in a low voice. Although the Emperor of Tang did not know the origin of the 7 people, it was obvious that they were unfathomable. Under their joint efforts, they had obviously set up a killing trap for Su Qin. Third brother will definitely win, Su Yueyun said nervously. Thousands of meters above the Emperor of Tang Palace. At this time, 8 figures were standing leisurely. The astral wind that could tear apart a grade 1 great grandmaster was extremely obedient in front of these 8 figures. They could not get within 100 meters of them at all. We have all been sleeping for thousands of years using self-sealing secret techniques. I don't think you have heard of us. The Green Mang Shaman Lord's tone was gentle. It was as if they were not working together to kill Su Qin, but were chatting as if they were good friends. This is Ancestor Snow of the Snow God Palace. She is the direct disciple of the land immortal of the Snow God Palace 2,800 years ago. Although she failed to break through to the land immortal realm, her methods are rare in the world. She has received the true teachings of the land immortal of the Snow God Palace. The Green Mang Shaman Lord looked at a woman in white among the 7 and introduced her unhurriedly. Greetings, fellow Daoist. Ancestor Snow's face was covered with a veil. Compared to the other ancestors of the Snow God Palace, Ancestor Snow was much more ordinary. Her aura was almost completely restrained and did not leak out at all. She had completely returned to her original state. This is the Thunder God Sect's Thunder Ancestor. In his era, an Earth Immortal was born, and the Thunder Ancestor had fought with that Earth Immortal before he reached the Tao. His name had shaken the seas for hundreds of years. The Green Mang Shaman Lord looked at a man and said, the Lightning Ancestor was a tall man. His eyes seemed to be surrounded by lightning, and he was extremely extraordinary. Ordinary peak myths would feel a piercing pain in their eyes even if they only looked at him from afar. Even their divine thoughts could not get close to him. It was extremely terrifying. As for this, he is the Xianxia's first ancestor, and the medicine god sect's medicine master. The Green Mang Shaman Lord quickly introduced the 6 figures. Medicine god sect. Su Qin looked at the white-robed old man and shook his head. Your medicine god sect pursues the pinnacle of alchemy. Why do you want to get involved in this mess? Among the many exalted sects overseas, the medicine god sect had a very special status. Even great sects like Raytheon and witchcraft, which had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, did not dare to be rude to the medicine god sect. This was not because the medicine god sect was the orthodoxy left behind by a land immortal of alchemy and had an unfathomable foundation. It was more because the medicine god sect controlled most of the sources of pills overseas. In martial arts, cultivation, talent, and comprehension were important, but pills were also indispensable. Su Qin did not expect that the medicine god sect, which had always ignored the outside world, would join forces with the Green Mang Shaman Lord and the others at this moment. With the medicine god sect's status overseas, as long as they were unwilling, the Green Mang Shaman Lord would definitely not dare to force them. The only possibility was that the medicine god sect also had their eyes on the land of the Great Battle. Under the recovery of the vitality tide, only the land of the Great Battle will produce 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, or even legendary divine herbs. If my medicine god sect wants to refine a shocking pill, we have to come. The medicine master looked at Su Qin with a solemn expression. Although the medicine god sect was addicted to alchemy, there were many other methods besides alchemy. As the orthodoxy left behind by a land immortal of alchemy, if they only knew how to refine pills, they would have been conquered by the other exalted sects long ago. I see. Su Qin sighed softly. Even the transcendent medicine god sect could not completely see through the word benefit. Witchcraft, Raytheon, Xianxia, medicine god sect. Su Qin chuckled and changed the topic. Why didn't the people from Daoism sect come? At this moment, the Green Mang Shaman Lord and the others came from almost all the exalted sects overseas, but the 10,000 Buddhas Hall and the Daoism sect did not send anyone. It was understandable that the 10,000 Buddhas Hall did not send anyone. After all, after Su Qin made a move in the Western Desert, the 10,000 Buddhas Hall regarded him as a true Buddha. But the Daoism sect was also a great sect that had been passed down since the recovery of the vitality tide. Its foundation was definitely not lower than the witchcraft and Raytheon. There must be a half-step land immortal patriarch in the sect. The Daoism sect. The Green Mang Shaman Lord's smile gradually faded. He had visited the Daoism sect, but they were unwilling to attack Su Qin. Even when the Green Mang Shaman Lord promised to divide the battlefield in the future, the Daoism sect was unmoved. Are the 7 of us not worthy of your attention? The Green Mang Shaman Lord said slowly. Although the Daoism sect was not involved in this alliance, the half-step land immortals including the Green Mang Shaman Lord, Ancestor Snow, and the Medicine Master were the strongest powerhouses of their respective sections. The 7 of them joined forces and gathered the strongest powerhouses of many exalted sects. In the era where there were no land immortals, the 7 of them represented a sweeping force. It would be easy for them to destroy a great sect like the Wanjian school. If other legends were here, perhaps they would have already trembled in fear. The Green Mang Magus Lord and the other 6 legends not only represented invincible strength, but also represented the great sect behind them. It was simply the strength of the entire overseas martial arts world. Cut the crap. If you want to live, hand over the Thunder Calamity Wood. Otherwise, be careful of being struck by lightning and your body and soul will be destroyed. The lightning ancestor said word by word, his voice like rolling thunder. He joined forces with the Green Mang Shaman Lord this time. In addition to besieging Su Qin and redividing the battlefield, the other purpose was to take back the Thunder Calamity Wood in Su Qin's hands. Since the Thunder Calamity Wood ancestor Lei Xing fell in the hands of Su Qin had become the target of the entire Raytheon. For Raytheon, Not only could the thunder calamity would help them to cultivate their secret arts, but it also contained a trace of the ninth heaven-defying thunder. It was the hope of Raytheon's disciples to step into the earth immortal realm. Without this thunder calamity Raytheon's disciples would not be able to withstand the vast power of the thunder origin chi when their primordial spirit merged into the sea of origin chi. Thunder calamity would? Su Qin looked at the lightning ancestor and sighed. The power of thunder inside is really good. It took me a few days to completely devour it. How dare you? The lightning ancestor's eyes immediately widened when he heard this. Su Qin's words obviously meant that he had completely devoured the thunder calamity wood. In other words, there was no more thunder calamity wood in the world. How could the lightning ancestor not be angry? The aura of the ninth heaven's divine thunder in the thunder tribulation wood was extremely precious. Even the thunder god sect was trying to figure it out day and night. They didn't dare to waste the slightest bit. I will definitely extract your soul from your body and extract the aura of the ninth heaven divine thunder from your body. The lightning ancestor's eyes were like rolling thunder. Before his voice died away, the lightning ancestor raised his right hand and a terrifying thunderbolt fell like a dancing thunder dragon, instantly heading towards Su Qin. Although the thunder ancestor had only summoned a thunderbolt, its momentum was far stronger than that of the thunder ancestor. It could almost severely injure an ordinary primordial spirit realm pinnacle legend. Even the rest of the half-step earth immortals had to be wary of it. However, under everyone's gaze, the thunderbolt disappeared when it was 100 feet away from Su Qin, as if it had never appeared. The thunderbolt summoned by the lightning ancestor couldn't even get 100 feet closer to Su Qin. The herb master, snow ancestor and the others who were originally relaxed gradually became serious. Based on this alone, Su Qin was qualified to be on par with them. Let's attack together. The lightning ancestor's expression didn't change at all. The previous attack was only used to test Su Qin, not to kill him. At this moment, as the lightning ancestor roared, dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky as if there were thousands of thunderbolts roaring. The other six looked at each other and also prepared to attack. In that case, from today onwards, there will be no supreme sects in this world. Su Qin's eyes were filled with killing intent. He took a step forward and clenched his right hand into the depths of the void. Rip. The world suddenly turned dark and a saber radiance slashed down like a crack. There should be more in the afternoon. Also, I want monthly votes. Chapter 301. Just as the lightning ancestor and the others were fighting with Su Qin, they immediately attracted the attention of countless creatures in Chang'an City. As the vitality tide continued to recover, many overseas mythical warriors arrived at the battlefield one after another. And as the capital of the empire of Tang, Chang'an City naturally had many mythical warriors mixed in. However, due to Su Qin's deterrence, these overseas mythical warriors were well-behaved and did not dare to claim to be mythical warriors. After all, under the eyes of a powerhouse like Su Qin, who could kill them with a thought, who would dare to cause trouble? What's that? Right at this moment, an old man in cloth clothes who was walking with strong steps suddenly stopped. He raised his head to look at the sky, and his pupils suddenly constricted. At this moment, the sky above Chang'an City was already covered with dark clouds. 7 auras were as dazzling as the sun, wantonly exuding a terrifying aura. If they were not too far away, perhaps just these 7 auras alone would be enough to make millions of creatures in Chang'an City kneel down. Peak mythical? No, it's not a peak mythical. How dare a peak mythical release such an aura here? The old man in cloth clothes thought quickly. With the means displayed by the mythical in the palace, ordinary peak mythical would be dead if they came. Even the dignified Wanjian school was destroyed in the hands of the other party. The old man in cloth clothes really couldn't think of which peak mythical would dare to be so presumptuous here. It's a half-step land immortal. The old man in cloth clothes was in disbelief. He was also a mythical warrior who came to Chang'an City from overseas. Although he was not a peak mythical, he still had the cultivation of the 6th heavenly layer. He could vaguely feel that the 7 auras standing in the sky were almost comparable to heaven and earth. Obviously, they had surpassed the limit of the mythical realm, but compared with the magnificent aura of a real land immortal, they were still a little lacking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 half-step land immortals joining forces to besiege. The old man in cloth clothes suddenly trembled. He was obviously frightened. Besiege the mythical of the Empire of Tang? The old man in cloth clothes realized this and suddenly turned pale. Apart from the mythical of the Empire of Tang, the old man in cloth clothes could not think of any other existence that was worthy of 7 half-step land immortals joining forces. In fact, it wasn't just the linen-clothed old man. In Chang and City, many of the legends who had sneaked in from overseas reacted and were dumbfounded. Something big has happened. 7 half-step earthly immortals. I'm afraid they've almost emptied the resources of those powerful sects, right? What exactly did that mythical being from the Empire of Tang do that made 7 half-step land immortals besieging him? Many overseas mythical creatures were trembling in fear. However, they heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the battlefield between the 7 half-step land immortals and Su Qin was thousands of meters above Chang and City. Since Su Qin was able to attract the cooperation of 7 half-step earthly immortals, it was obvious that he had also stepped into the half-step earthly immortal realm. Once the 8 half-step land immortals fought, even the aftermath of their attacks would be enough to destroy Chang and City. Even the mythical warriors would not be spared. But now, the battlefield was thousands of meters in the air. At such a height, 99% of the aftermath of the battle would scatter to the sky. The remaining bit would span thousands of meters and its power would be greatly reduced. At least, it wouldn't be able to destroy Chang and City. This is a half-step earthly immortal. Even when the news of the Immortal Gate spread 900 years ago, it only attracted the attention of a half-step earthly immortal. But now, 8 earthly immortals are fighting. The linen-clothed old man's hands were trembling. Even with his 6th heaven mythical state, he couldn't control himself. Grandpa, is it rare to see a half-step land immortal? Beside the linen-clothed old man, a tiger-faced little boy asked curiously. It's more than rare. The linen-clothed old man shook his head and calmed himself down. He then said, although half-step land immortals aren't real land immortals, they usually fail to break through and their blood, chi, and essence spirit begin to collapse. If there's no other reason, why would they fight? Every time a half-step land immortal fights, it's equivalent to shortening his life. If it were you, would you fight with your life at stake? The linen-clothed old man's expression kept changing. At this moment, he was already thinking about how to get out of Chang and City as soon as possible. With 7 half-step land immortals joining forces, even if that legend in Chang and City had the ability to reach the heavens, he wouldn't be able to stop them. After today, the land of the great battle would be taken over by the major sections. As for legends like them who didn't belong to the major sects, they naturally had to think of a way out for themselves. At this moment, thousands of meters high in the sky, the thunder ancestor of Raytheon controlled the heavenly thunder and roared like the thunder god. The first ancestor of Kuragenkyo transformed into a curtain of darkness that was everywhere and silently shrouded Su Qin. The snow ancestor of the snow god palace pointed out a finger, and a cold aura instantly spread out. Wherever it went, everything was frozen. In an instant, the 7 half-step land immortals attacked at the same time. They knew very well that when facing an expert of the same level like Su Qin who was full of qi and blood and had sufficient shoyuan, the biggest taboo was to drag things out. Therefore, when the 7 of them attacked, they were prepared to kill Su Qin as quickly as possible. However, in the next moment, the 7 of them saw Su Qin wielding the demon god's blade and slashing out a pitch-black saber ray. The pitch-black saber ray was like a crack in space as it tore through the air and easily split open the lightning summoned by the thunder ancestor. After all, the lightning summoned by the thunder ancestor was just an ordinary heavenly thunder. How could it be a match for Su Qin? The pitch-black saber ray flashed and didn't dissipate. Instead, it slashed towards the snow ancestor. Oh no! The snow ancestor's expression changed slightly. Su Qin's saber was extremely sharp and could even split open the lightning summoned by the thunder ancestor, let alone her. The saber ray flashed and arrived in front of her in an instant. The snow ancestor could only withdraw her finger and block the black saber ray. Puff! The snow ancestor grunted and her figure quickly dissipated and reappeared not far away. It was obvious that she had suffered a loss under the demon god's blade. Although she didn't suffer any serious injuries, she didn't feel good either. Buzz! The pitch-black saber ray slashed through the shadow left behind by the snow ancestor and slashed towards the remaining half-step land immortals. The dark sky curtain transformed by the Kuragenkyo's first ancestor was cut open like a piece of cloth under the pitch-black saber ray. The green glow shaman master's body shook as he dodged the saber ray. The medicine master of the medicine god sects' expression changed. He took out a fiery red elixir pill and threw it out without hesitation. He shouted in a low voice, "Explode!" Rumble! A terrifying explosion resounded in all directions as if the sky had collapsed. Under the explosion, the pitch-black saber ray barely dissipated. Even so, the saber chi left behind by the saber ray still penetrated dozens of miles away. It was extremely terrifying. None of them died? A trace of disappointment appeared on Su Qin's face. Su Qin had already used all his strength in that attack except for the hundreds of trump cards. In the end, none of them died? Compared to Su Qin's disappointment, the other 7 half-step land immortals were completely horrified. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that Su Qin's one slash would cause them to crumble under their joint efforts. Even first ancestor of Black Source sect, Ancestor Snow of Snow God Palace, and the others were injured to a certain extent. How was this possible? Su Qin fought against 7 half-step land immortals alone. Not only did he not fall into a disadvantageous position, but he also forced them to retreat. It was simply unbelievable. How can he be so strong? The green glow shaman master's eyes were wide open. If it wasn't for the aura that Su Qin exuded that wasn't unity of heaven and man like a real land immortal, the green glow shaman master would have suspected that Su Qin had already stepped into the land immortal realm. Other than a real land immortal, who else could force them to retreat with a single saber strike? Guys, let's use that move. If we continue to hold back, we'll all die here, Ancestor Lightning said solemnly. The strength that Su Qin had just displayed was too terrifying. Just one saber strike was enough to make them panic. If there were a few more sabers, what was the point of fighting? Should they just kneel and beg for mercy? That's the only way. The other 6 people's faces turned solemn. They had already awakened more than a year ago. After such a long time, other than recovering their strength, they naturally had other preparations. In the next moment, the 7 half-step land immortals vaguely occupied a certain position while circulating a strange technique in their bodies. Instantly, the 7 people's strength quickly merged together and formed a whole. In an instant, a terrifying aura burst out as though it had broken through the restrictions of heaven and earth. Judging from the aura alone, the 7 half-step land immortals had almost completely stepped into the land immortal realm. Joint attack technique? Su Qin frowned. He had seen this joint attack technique in the jade stone left behind by the Eastern Sea's true lord. Between cultivators, even if they cultivated the same secret art, the true essence aura they cultivated would be different due to their different physiques. However, a joint attack technique was able to forcefully combine the different auras together and display a strength that far exceeded that of a single person. When the 7 half-step land immortals used the joint attack technique together, the increase in power was definitely at the threshold of an land immortal. Of course, the joint attack technique was not without its flaws. The essence of the joint attack technique was that the auras of different people began to merge. However, it was easy to merge but difficult to separate. Once the joint attack technique was used, it was equivalent to polluting one's own true essence aura. The consequences would be great. Only someone like the Green Radiance Shaman Master who had used a self-sealing secret technique and knew that he could not take that step would use such a joint attack technique. Just as Su Qin was pondering, The Green Radiance Shaman Master and the others had completed the joint attack technique. This power is too powerful. The Xianxia's first ancestor had an intoxicated expression on his face. At this moment, he had gathered the strength of 7 half-step land immortals and had almost taken that step. The Xianxia's first ancestor had a cold expression. He slowly raised his right hand and pressed it down on Su Qin. The Raytheon's lightning ancestor did the same. With a thought, he mobilized thousands of lightning bolts. There was even a thin purple lightning bolt that quickly covered Su Qin. The Snow God Palace's snow ancestor, the Witchcraft's Green Radiance Shaman Master, the Medicine God Sect's Medicine Master. Under the enhancement of the joint attack technique, the 7 half-step land immortals attacked almost at the same time. The terrifying power completely merged together and burst forth with a brand new power that far exceeded the limits of the world. The instant this power appeared, the air was suddenly torn apart. The surroundings within a radius of dozens of miles instantly turned into a blur, pitch black and deep. Su Qin was directly swept into this power. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The legend of the Empire of Tang should be dead by now. When the Green Radiance Shaman Master saw this, a smile appeared on his face. That's right. Our joint attack has already reached the level of an land immortal. It's enough to kill all the enemies in the world. The Xianxia's first ancestor nodded. It's a pity about that thunder calamity would. The lightning ancestor shook his head slightly. However, no matter how unwilling he was, Su Qin had already turned into ashes under their joint attack, let alone the thunder calamity would that Su Qin had devoured. If Su Qin had left his body, he could have tried to extract the 9 heavens divine thunder aura from Su Qin's body. But now, in the lightning ancestor's eyes, Su Qin's body and soul were completely destroyed. The thunder calamity wood's aura had probably dissipated. Just as the 7 half-step land immortals were about to return to Chang, in city and completely take over the battlefield. In the middle of the blurry void, the slender figure of a man suddenly appeared. In an instant, the Green Radiance Shaman Master and the others felt a scorching aura enveloping the world as if there was another sun shining on the world. Before the Green Radiance Shaman Master and the others could react, they saw an unforgettable scene. The tall and slender man slowly walked out. In the depths of the man's eyes, an eternal sun was faintly burning. His skin was sparkling and translucent. With every step he took, the elemental energy of fire within a radius of hundreds and thousands of miles would tremble. It was as if the god of fire had descended to the world and controlled all the fire in the world. Under the shocked gaze of the Green Radiance Shaman Master, Su Qin looked up at them and said slowly, "Not bad. But I'm going to get serious." Third update. The third update is more than 3,000 words. It's equivalent to 10,000 words in total. I'm looking for monthly votes. I'm looking for double monthly votes these days. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.